It is the 18th century BC. The great city of Uruk thrives in Sumeria, later to become a city in Babylon. Its king, Lugalbanda, has ruled over his land for over 1,000 years, with the help of his wife, the goddess Ninsun. The two one day have a child, Gilgamesh, born as a demigod. In time, he would be the next king of Uruk. He steps up to rule during the decline of the Age of Gods. He is designated by the Mesopotamian gods to be the keystone of heaven, tasked with observing humanity through the decline. Acknowledging that they may lose control of their precious keystone, the gods create Enkidu, an ambiguous form of clay, from the earth. He is tasked with being the chains of heaven, designed to bind the king should he become uncontrollable. Enkidu, at first, lacks rational thought and wanders the wilderness outside Uruk. His father, Anu, the king of gods, brought him to Shamat, a sacred prostitute. By spending a week in lust with her, he sheds his bestial nature and takes the form of a beautiful man. He could then seek out Gilgamesh and fulfill his divine mission. Yet, he encounters Gilgamesh during his innocent childhood and waits until the young king matures. Born into such a high-caliber form, Gilgamesh is an arrogant youth who favors human pleasure above all else. As such, his rule is tyrannical. For women, he enforces a law of prima nocta, granting himself and nobility sexual rights over brides on their wedding nights. For men, he forces them to exhaustion through the construction of monuments in his honor. Throughout his rule, he amasses a gigantic treasury, filled with all the technological wonders of his time, including the predecessors of great weapons, noble phantasms. In fact, he feels that the entire world's material goods belong to him. He carries this vast treasury with him at all times via the Gate of Babylon. Having access to a myriad of weapons, he is unmatched in battle. Using a sword hilt called the Key of the King's Law, Bab Ilu, he is able to reach further into the gate and draw his ultimate weapon, Ea, a complex blade only he had and would ever possess, not having been handed down from any other user. Ea grants Gilgamesh the ability to use his strongest technique, Enumauu, which is capable of tearing apart the fabric of worlds. Ea was crystallized during the Age of Gods, a divine construct that cannot be replicated. With these powers, it seemed none could question or oppose his rule. Gilgamesh's citizens prayed to the gods for relief, as their king had become a tyrant, just as the gods had predicted. Enkidu finally confronts Gilgamesh in front of the Temple of Uruk, and they battle each other for several days. Initially, Gilgamesh is bothered by Enkidu's skill, forcing him to use weapons from his treasury, even utilizing them as projectiles. But he soon begins to enjoy the fight. The two find themselves rivals in combat, with no clear victor. From this fight, Enkidu puts aside his goal of reprimanding Gilgamesh and actually joins him in search of stronger opponents. Their journey eventually takes them to the Forest of Cedar, home to Humbaba, a massive, violent ogre. Humbaba expresses that Enkidu has betrayed nature by siding with Gilgamesh, and vows to defeat him and mutilate Gilgamesh, feeding his corpse to the birds. While Gilgamesh is intimidated, Enkidu encourages him to fight. The two work together and wrestle the ogre into submission. Humbaba gives in, vowing to serve Gilgamesh for life. Enkidu claims the ogre is lying, and so Gilgamesh finishes it off. Gilgamesh and Enkidu become peerless friends. When Enkidu declares himself to be a tool for Gilgamesh to use, he's instead called a fool, and is acknowledged by Gilgamesh as an equal. The goddess Ishtar comes before Gilgamesh, impressed by his accomplishments. She offers herself to be his lover, but Gilgamesh refuses her, knowing her to be unfaithful to many previous lovers. Enraged, Ishtar calls for the Bull of Heaven to be released upon Gilgamesh's kingdom. Gilgamesh and Enkidu team up again. After an intense fight, they kill the bull and toss its severed rear back at Ishtar. This angers the gods, and they debate on how to punish the two of them for having killed the sacred animal. The gods sentence Enkidu to death, causing him to die by returning to his form of clay and dispersing into dust in Gilgamesh's arms. With his dying breath, Enkidu tells Gilgamesh not to mourn the loss of a single tool, that countless more treasures would belong to the king. Of course, Gilgamesh grieves the loss of his only friend, knowing that he would never gain a more valuable treasure. Enkidu, the chains of heaven, would then literally reside in his gate of Babylon as a tool of ultimate binding. While he can use it in battle, it is an eternal reminder of his best friend. Having Enkidu die in his arms causes Gilgamesh to fear his own mortality, something he hadn't been concerned with in all his life of gathering riches, making love, and fighting strong foes. As such, Gilgamesh sets out to find the secret of immortality, searching for a man named Utnapishtim, rumored to be immortal after surviving a great flood. After an epic journey, Gilgamesh finds Utnapishtim in the realm of the dead. He inquires about immortality, but is met with disappointment. Utnapishtim reveals that his immortality was consequence of joining the ranks of the gods as an immortal plant, foregoing his human desires. This is not the kind of immortality Gilgamesh seeks. Nevertheless, Utnapishtim reveals that there is an herb in the underworld that could grant immortality without seeking help from the gods. Gilgamesh obtains the herb and returns above ground to bring the herb to his vault in the form of a potion. Not wanting to return to his kingdom ragged, Gilgamesh visits a nearby spring to recover. As he is healed by the water, he finds himself in total bliss, ruminating on his life's accomplishments. In a moment of carelessness, a hungry snake sneaks up on Gilgamesh and devours the potion, gaining the ability to shed its skin. This single moment robs Gilgamesh of the chance to overcome death he had sought for decades. Yet, at the same time, he truly experiences the life of a human. Upon seeing his luxurious kingdom once more, witnessing all his monuments, and recalling all of his tremendous deeds, Gilgamesh finds that this in itself would be immortal, and spends the rest of his days governing Uruk and restoring its former glory. Wanting to complete his collection, Gilgamesh once again returns to the underworld to retrieve more of the herb, keeping it in case he ever needs to return to his child form. That very first snake skin becomes fossilized, and Gilgamesh's legend gets recorded into the Throne of Heroes. During the Fourth Holy Grail War, Tokiomi Tosaka obtains this ancient skin and uses it as a catalyst to summon Gilgamesh as a heroic spirit. Gilgamesh, first in human pleasure, finds Tokiomi's desire to reach the root of all existence a boring and foolish endeavor. Instead, Gilgamesh focuses on the state of the modern world and continues to live as if all material things belong to him. This is especially true when he discovers Artoria Pendragon during the war. Upon witnessing her saintly dedication to Britain, he yearns to take her as his own, demanding that she become his bride. A more pressing event, however, is when Gilgamesh befriends Tokiomi's disciple, Kire Kotomine, a former executioner of the church, with a profound loyalty to God. Having once walked the line between human desire and divine providence himself, Gilgamesh takes a liking to Kotomine and provokes him to discover his own latent, moral desires. Kotomine loses his assassin servant early in the war, but regains his command seals so that he may make a pact with another servant. Thus, he murders Tokiomi and forms a pact with the now freed Gilgamesh. The two of them advance to the war's final battle, and he uses this chance to try and win Artoria over. His plans are interrupted when Kiritsugu Emiya forces Artoria to destroy the Lesser Grail, unleashing the mud of Angra Mainyu on Fuyuki City. The mud plunges down upon Gilgamesh, filling him with curses. He survives them, and is reincarnated into the modern era in a physical form. Now alive, he aims to once again rule over humanity. After the war, Gilgamesh stays with Kotomine, keeping his body energized with the mana he drains from orphaned children kept in the church after the war's great fire. For the next 10 years, he keeps himself young with the herb in his collection, the Potion of Youth, and waits until the next Holy Grail War to rise up and cleanse humanity with the Grail's destructive might. During his time ruling in Babylon, Gilgamesh had always seen use in his subjects. Even the weakest and poorest had a purpose. Yet, in modern times, He views most of humanity as superfluous and overpopulated. He aims to use the Grail's pollution to cull the useless humans from society, and works with Kotomine in secret during the 5th Grail War to ensure his goal. As fate would have it, Gilgamesh reunites with Artoria, and he resumes his campaign to make her his bride. He draws Ea on her, and uses Enumauu to nearly defeat her in battle. But during their last fight, Gilgamesh is defeated when Artoria invokes Avalon to cancel out his ultimate attack. He is struck at point-blank range with Excalibur's light, and finds himself slain by the woman he strove to dominate. With that, he vanishes, putting an end to his cleanse of humanity. Of course, there are more words to tell, branches to be explored, but perhaps that is for another time. Thank you so much for supporting me in this new set of lore videos. While I'm only human, I am slowly but surely working on other lore videos like Tsukihime and eventually Fate Grand Order and Apocrypha, as well as all the regular anime content you've come to expect from my channel. We've gone ahead and revamped our Patreon account, so please check it out as it now includes different bonuses and rewards for different tiers of payment. Support in any form is welcome, and I thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe to this channel for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, and Let's Plays. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.